the traditional owners of the lands across Australia where partners are gathering for our forum and recognise the importance they continue to place on the management of country. I particularly wish to acknowledge the traditional owners joining the forum today and the important partnership work in the Torres Strait, which we'll hear more about this afternoon. I think we had a fantastic day yesterday. Over 100 people from across Australia joined us. And the key moment for me was hearing the impact of the salmonella outbreak on Fenwick Family Farm. Despite great biosecurity practices, this multi-generation family business lost everything overnight. It's a sobering reminder to me of the importance of our Theme 2 work, empowering everyone to do their part. So don't forget, we'll be voting tomorrow on our 5 measures of success that partners agreed to back in 2017. Empowering everyone to do their part, clarity of purpose and objectives, mutual trust and respect, clarity of roles and responsibilities, and partnership collaboration to achieve goals. Yesterday, the Minister focused on the government's commitment to the partnership, and Scott Spencer, Chair of BQMAC, focused us on the importance of mutual trust and respect in how we move forward. Professor Paul Kearney gave us a global perspective of the importance of developing that partnership in times of peace so that they can deliver for us during an emergency or a crisis. Kate, Tony and Richard shared with us their story on how the community has come together on Tamborine Mountain to tackle fire ants. And there were lessons out of that approach that could be applied in other settings. Ken Young shared 6 great examples of biosecurity partnerships in the grain industry, and immediately our partners were finding the linkages to other work programs. And we finished the presentations with Darren talking about how producers, industry and government are demonstrating mutual trust and respect to evolve the accredited certifier system at sale yards. Before we closed yesterday, we started important workshop conversations to determine our future direction. You all provided a list of ideas to take Queensland's biosecurity system forward next year. It was interesting to me to see many overlaps between the breakout rooms and in some cases how we've advanced the 23 priorities we voted on back in 2018. We've consolidated those priorities into 12 potential workshops for today. As Steph mentioned before, your votes earlier today then decided 5 clear topics for this afternoon. We'll be looking for you to come up with indicators of success and break down exactly what's needed to take this work forward. And the outcomes from these workshops are going to inform our report to BQMAC. I just want to provide a shout out to BQMAC members for the leadership and the influence that they're providing to our workshops. Thanks very much for that. But before we get into today's workshops, we've got another great round of presentations with a focus on engagement and reinforcing the importance of partnership. And for those sticking around, we'll also have the National Biosecurity Roundtable at 4 o'clock today. I reckon it's going to be another great day. Thanks very much for participating. Back to you, Steph.
Thanks, Pat. I'm really losing these words today. Thank you, Pat, and great to get us started on today's agenda. And we're going to go straight in now with our Director General of the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, Bob G. He's going to set our scene for today and the importance of effective partnerships and also having that evidence base to drive our engagement in biosecurity. Thanks, Bob. Welcome this afternoon.
Thanks, Steph. Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to start out acknowledging the traditional owners of the land wherever you are. And I'm in sunny Brisbane looking out my flash office and looking at the metropolis and the capital city of Brisbane. And I often think around biosecurity and partnerships and the work we do. You know, it's all often seen through only industry's eyes or the eyes of experts, or the eyes that of people that stand to make a profit or a loss in some of the key industries we're all working with. And I think that's interesting, but it's such a limited view of the world. And so for what it's worth, I was just going to talk for a few minutes around the great work this group is doing. I think it actually is an example for how broader public service should be conducted, how broader business should be conducted, and we're deadly serious. And I'm just continuing or helping the work that's already been done by you and by Biosecurity Queensland in encouraging more engagement through forums like this. I wish we were face to face, but we're not. I do think behavioural economics has got a lot to offer us, and you know, there's a reason Kahneman and the work he did based on Tversky's work and their work together around behavioural economics, I think it's very instructive and tells us about how we might want to engage with some people. You know, people don't rationalise a loss and a gain the same way. So understanding that losses are seen so much more have to have much more impact than an equivalent gain is really quite instructive for how I operate. It's really hard to get people understanding risk appetite, but I think there is something for all of us to stop and think about. Well, that could work for us, and I'm sure you're already ahead of me. Smart people online. I had a look through at some of the bios with some of the bios of some of the people I didn't know. I then just wanted to flip to some things I see that are unique to Queensland, Australia, but particularly Queensland. I do think Queensland has a great comparative advantage in terms of ESG, how we look after our environment, our social licence, and how we govern. And the way we're trying to engage in this space is a good example of that. I think that is really a comparative advantage that stands all of us in good stead, not just now, but in 3, 5, 7, 10, 15 years' time, particularly for our children and grandchildren. So that comparative advantage, along with this notion of, well, how do we engage and who are we trying to engage with, is fundamentally important to us all. We all know that. But that then takes us to, for the unconverted or those that don't see what we all see, how do we influence and work with them, learn from them, engage with them, and get them more interested in the objective? And the objective for me has to be around maintaining where we are now, not coming backwards. Be great to do even more, but you know, that lifestyle issue, how people earn a livelihood, and our connection with environment, those things shine through, I think, in the work that you're all doing. It's what I see not just in the portfolio of ag and fisheries, but I see that in all the work that large corporations are doing. If we're really truly understanding consumer preferencing and what is important, particularly in the supply chains we work in, I think it's very fair to say that there's a lot of evidence that points us towards understanding that people are more complex than just simply looking at a livelihood and earning $1. It is actually, people do care about their legacy, the legacy for others, and lifestyle choices. But I think the great challenge for all of us is how do we make space in all of those bubbles that people operate in now? There is no longer just 2 channels of television to watch. Sadly, it would make life easy for people like me and others, where we had a stranglehold on how we got messages across. It's a much different environment now. So those diverse audiences, for me, you know, I'm just throwing this out there for the group to think about. You can ignore me. It it won't make a difference either way, but I really would ask us to stop and think, what does it mean? How do we get to those that aren't in our business and aren't interested in the core message? How do we make space for that? And that's really hard, because I don't know, the last time you walked down the street and asked the average punter, tell me about agriculture and what you think about it and how it operates in this state. I think you might get a surprise about what is not known. Queensland, the nation's changed a fair bit, and not everyone is connected to, the risks that we see very clearly for biosecurity. So I think there's something in that for all of us. How we use technology is important. For me, I'm really keen to learn from the group and see the outcomes of where you think we should head in terms of squeezing more out of our collective efforts. I really value the time that you all spend and how with us and how we work together to achieve some of these objectives, but we could make life a lot easier, I think, if we can get beyond this group to some of our other key partners to see and show them the great work and evidence that these sort of forums and partnerships are working through. Can I just say how fantastic it is to see people like Woolworths, Sunpork and others sharing their views on partnership projects and the opportunities that are there for the larger end of town, for those industries, companies and supply chains that are really, really so professional, have got a great set of values and see the connection between livelihood, lifestyle and biosecurity, and see that consumers actually, when it's put in front of them, when they're aware of things, will make choices. And fundamentally, my experience teaches me that Queenslanders in particular make the right choices if we get it right in terms of getting information in front of them. But information, they can pick bull dust a mile away. So that information has to be evidence-based with strong theoretical underpinnings. And the brains trust that's online here now, I think the great thing for me selfishly, for our department, is that you can help us so much by teaching us more about how we can engage. And in partnerships, I've always said that if you've heard it from me before, it's about true partnerships. You need to give something up. Now, whether that's a friendship, a marriage, a legal partnership, a corporation, it doesn't really matter. In partnerships, we all need to make some sacrifice for the collective good or for mutual benefit. And so I wanted to close out on that by saying I respect very, very much the sacrifice you're making, not just in terms of time, but your reputation, your efforts, your honesty, and the way that the group is so honest actually, builds a whole heap of trust. It's one thing to be competent. No one's will trust a fool. Yeah, but the competence is one thing, but these honest conversations and giving us so much intricate knowledge and wisdom helps us send a message that it's for the greater good, I think. So I'm going to close there. I'm going to stay online for questions and just to listen for a while, for as long as I can. But for all of you that haven't met me and dealt with me personally before, it's not hard to find me. Email or ring anytime, and it'd be my pleasure to give back to you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Steph.
Thanks, Bob. That's a really great scene setter to get us going today. And your comments there in terms of the complexities of behavioural economics and exploring how we can then use that to drive how we do our engagement and partner together, I think is really important. As you said, there are no easy solutions here. It's really hard, but we're going to have some good conversations in our workshops today to explore this further. Thanks for staying on the line. If people would like to ask a question of Bob, you can do so in the chat and we'll direct that to Bob while he's here for a bit longer this afternoon. Now, just going back a little bit to yesterday's workshop, the chair of Biosecurity Queensland's Ministerial Advisory Council, Scott Spencer, posed the question in one of his workshops,